what's funny about that actually is me getting into the USA on this tour, right? I've been on tourist visas the whole time, just on the ESTA. And I actually got sent to secondary inspection for the first time. And I was stuck in there for 4 long hours.
Wow.
And the whole time they had the food channel on. So I was sitting there suffering, starving, watching food, right?
And they're just playing all these delicious recipes.
Yeah, and I'd just been on a huge long flight from, I think, Russia or Kazakhstan at the time, right? And by the time the guy interrogated me, I got to thank this guy. I'll probably get him in trouble, but I should definitely have been deported because of all the work I've done here, right?
Right.
But when this guy picked up my passport, he gave me a mini interrogation, and then he comes back and he's like, actually, I do jiu-jitsu. I know you are. Welcome to America.
No way.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So thank God.
Jiu-jitsu opens all doors.
The silver medal gets you some things from time to time.
Actually, because I'm not American either, but I have a working visa nowadays. But previously, I actually had a similar thing. I got through immigration once, and I passed through immigration. But then the moment after you pick up your case, they were like, "Sir, can you come with us, please?" And I was like, "Oh God." And they took me into a room, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, like first flight of the day, landing in the States, and I wasn't kind of super happy. I was a little bit nervous and stuff, and then I realized the guy looking through my case, that big fat pair of cauliflower ears, and he just notices the jiu-jitsu stickers on my case. We get talking. He's like, "What are you here for, bro?" I was like, "Just here for a tournament." It's all good. Yeah, no, there you go. So
That's awesome.
right.
That's awesome. They should make all TSA guys train. So give us a break on this.
Do you find yourself getting recognized more and more nowadays, though? Because, last couple of years have been so big for you, right? You've been so busy, and your profile has skyrocketed, and does that happen? You're out and about?
It does from time to time.
Really?
Actually, the first time it happened in a real interesting way was way back when me and Gordon faced off at EBI, the Absolutes, right?
Here in Austin.
Here in Austin, yeah. So that was the match I won.
Just a couple months after your ADCC breakout performance,
after the breakout, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So I left Austin, and the guys in Austin, they'd given me a bunch of weed, and they put it in my suitcase, right? So I put it in my suitcase, yeah.
Okay, they didn't do that without telling you.
No, they gave me a bunch of stuff.
They turned you into
right?
a drug mule.
They turned me into a drug mule. And I flew into New York, right? And I left the airport, and I went to pick up a rental car. And while I was waiting for my rental car bus, 2 guys in full military outfits with M16s came up next to me and were like, "Excuse me, are you Craig Jones?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going down." But they just watched EBI the night before, and I
Oh, man.
But I was worried for a brief.
Literally, you thought you were going to go put in the clink. Yeah,
I was like, "This is it." Eddie set out the message. They're coming after me. It's a trap.
God, that's funny.
Oh, my word. Well, I mean, it's like I say, it's been a roller coaster couple of years. And I think it's fair to say that, we did this podcast with you. Oh, man, it was, I guess, a little less than 2 years ago now. And, we were able to talk about that period from your first ADCC breakout performance in Finland through, like you said, going up against Gordon and the wild ride that it was leading into that. But then kind of like you've topped it, because the last 2 years have been even crazier still. There have been some huge changes in your life, in your career, ADCC that, hitting the podium for the first time. So let's go back through that a little bit. Like, people obviously know you're Australian, you travel a lot, but what's the deal now? You're Mr. New York now, huh?
Yeah, so I just actually rented an apartment in Hoboken, and I'm going to commit.
Down some roots.
Yeah, and for the first time in a long time, actually. But yeah, I'm going to commit to training full time in New York until the next ADCC.
Wow.
And then we'll see what my stress levels are like living in New York for 18 months. But yeah, 18 months there is going to feel like a lifetime. But obviously worth it for the great training and stuff.
But be there at the basement then with Danaher and the guys? Or?
Basement full time, yeah. And I'll probably do some wrestling. When I was there last time, I did a little bit of wrestling at Edge in Hoboken.
Oh, yeah.
You guys did a
I've
documentary.
been there, yeah. That place is really, really cool, yeah.
Pretty cool place.
We just dropped the documentary on FloGrappling, actually, with the founder of that. Ernie Monaco was his name, I guess?
I don't even know. I just did a few sessions there, and I ended up switching where I was staying to Brooklyn. So I was lazy. It was too far away for me to travel, basically.
You'll be able to hit it up now.
But yeah, now it'll be around the corner. So I think Edge is one of those few places where hobbyist wrestlers could go and train. I don't think wrestling is so much like jiu-jitsu where anyone can just take it up at any point in their life.
Yeah,
That's
I think
right.
There's a few guys that train there regularly, like Johnny Grippo. Doesn't he do some stuff there as well?
Dylan Dennis used
Dennis
to. Bernardo Faria actually used to go there a lot as well when he still lived in New York. So yeah, it's interesting. Edge is one of the few wrestling clubs that's open for adults to just go and train at? Because, you know, most people here in the States, you train wrestling in school and then like you graduate and that's it. If you don't go to college and wrestle, that's pretty much it. You maybe go back through the school club, you know, once in a while to get some rounds in, but people don't start wrestling as an adult in the States, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's a market for it because you can't really wrestle your whole life, right?
No.
Like that stuff's so brutal that people, as soon as they're finished with the school level wrestling, they're looking to do something more fun with their life. But
That's why they all retire at like 20 years of age, right?
exactly, yeah. So at least there's going to be a place for white belt wrestlers for someone like me.
Do you consider yourself a white belt in wrestling?
Yeah, I'm pretty terrible at wrestling. Hey, I'm
I don't know. You tell me. Like,
I gotta get
I'm not
better
saying
at-
anything.
I think I might be hard to take down. I don't know, from just some jiu-jitsu skills and stuff, but for the most part, my takedowns are pretty terrible. People think they're better than they are because I hit a judo throw back in the day on Dante, and people really gave me a lot more credit than I deserved for that.
That was a sick throw, though.
Oh, thank you.
No, it was cool. But yeah, you know, I guess if people are gonna line up your attributes, your strengths and weaknesses, then wrestling is not going to be at the top of that list of strengths, is it? It's going
Yeah,
to be
nowhere near.
submissions, guard, and so on and so on. But you know, sorry, it's a little bit more to you than just that, right? You know, the technical development. You made your name at the first ADCC, you know, with actually there weren't even leg locks, but people still thought of you as like this leg lock guy because then you wrecked the EBI tournament with like all those quick heel hooks and stuff. But training at Danaher's over the last, man, how long has it even been since you've been there? Like a year? On and off, but
Yeah, I've been training there probably on and off for a year and a half. I did a 6-month stint there before ADCC, but before that it was always like 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
right.
But the best part about training, this probably made me a more well-rounded grappler.
Well, I was going to say, because I think that we can see, and certainly your opponents probably agree, but the time that's spent there, you definitely seem to have implemented the Danaher systems into your game, and you can kind of see it, right? The sort of the savage back attacks, you know, obviously the leg locks we know about, but there's more to you than just leg locks and opportunistic submissions, right?
Yeah, for sure. Probably making a more well-rounded game and probably a more aggressive butt scooting game. You know what I mean? Like I used to just wait.
Aggressive butt scooting. That sounds like a great t-shirt right there.
It'd be strange people that didn't do jiu-jitsu seeing that t-shirt, but yeah, training there,
So
like
most people do.
well, yeah, most sane people. But yeah, when I train there, we do a lot of aggressive butt scooting in terms of coming up to wrestling exchanges off of the butt. Really, I guess for ADCC, because it's easy for your opponent to ride the clock down and sort of keep distance and stuff. But when you're playing an aggressive butt scooting game, they're sort of forced to engage you. It's harder for them to ride the clock down to overtime, and where it takes into wrestling.
Wrestling up is actually it's a big thing that we've noticed a lot in no-gi competitions, not just ADCC, but even in IBJJF. This wrestling up from the guard or wrestling up from seated guard and stuff, it's becoming like a system in its own right, because it's not traditional wrestling, because you've just taken away all of the hand fighting, all of the
There's
level
not really a
changing,
shot.
there's no shot, there's no penetration, there's no entry. It's coming from entanglements, usually like reverse Danaher or seated guard or whatever, but people are wrestling up and then finishing reversals that way as opposed to hitting like traditional jiu-jitsu sweeps now, right?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, someone who did that does that very well in the gym. He hasn't competed much, but Nicky Ryan, like he got a taste of it when he went against Shane Taylor.
He
at
did.
ADCC.
That's how he scored against Jamil, yeah.
Scored it. Yeah, he's very good at coming up with a shot, and it's hard to come up with a shot sometimes because of the lack of momentum. But I guess if your opponent's overly cautious and overly ripping their hands away, that ruins their posture, and you get a chance to take a shot that you maybe wouldn't have had standing up.
So as they're backing away, you just come up forward and
Exactly. They
Right.
almost pull you up, and when they break the grip, they end up with poor posture, and you get a clean shot on them. But yeah, Nicky Ryan, that's probably, to me, training with him, probably one of his biggest skill sets. I think when he competes coming forward, you're going to see a lot of butt scooting wrestling. I don't know what the right name for it is.
No, I guess. I mean, it's about as great a description as I can think of.
When you started training there in the basement, what were some like the biggest changes you noticed right away from like the daily regiments those guys do? Because it is highly structured. I was just wondering what that felt like to you when you first showed up there.
So I'd probably been pretty lazy with my drilling. So like when I'm traveling around and stuff, I'd roll. I think for basically all of 2018, I would just teach seminars and roll and get very little training in. Trying to make
you
that
didn't really
money.
have a coach either, right? At
Yeah,
that
well,
time.
at that time, yeah. Well, I had Lachlan, but he was back in Melbourne at that time.
Right.
But then coming to Danaher's, we all have to drill for basically an hour at the start, whatever sequence he wants us to drill. And we base that off basically him watching class every day. So he really adapts to training for the next day based on what he sees in rolling that day. And then the best thing I've found training there in terms of the rolling is we do 3 positional rounds and 3 regular rounds. No break in between, and you don't know when the round's going to end.
So the positional rounds will be, for example, somebody starts on your back and you go.
It would be like, generally speaking, start in mount. You'd be start in turtle and start in closed guard. Sometimes we'll throw in the armbar position, sometimes maybe even a double guard pull where we're attacking feet, but you're forced to engage the position. And because there's no rest round, and because you don't know when the round's going to end, John usually ends it based on who he sees suffering. But you can't play the round. So you're forced to actually do jiu-jitsu, and you're forced to use technique. Because if I would roll for 8 minutes, have a 2-minute break, I'm watching the clock, and I'm going to use sort of physical energy and strength and stuff based on that time. But if I don't know when the round's going to end, and I know it's going to be basically 60 minutes of rolling, then I'm forced to use technique, and I found my technique improve, and I could roll for the whole hour, which has helped at seminars when I roll with people afterwards. My cardio used to be terrible. But yeah, that's the biggest change for me, I think, is that I've actually been forced to use more technique than just sort of muscling techniques, which is a byproduct, I think, of having rounds and rest times that you can see.
It's also taken you away from your A game as well, right? Because, if you have something that you're really good at, let's say, Zigati heel hook, right?
Yep.
But then John starts you every day for a week working on bottom mount, then you're going to get a good bottom mount game. So
Exactly, yeah. And when you start on the mount and stuff, you actually have to develop proper escapes and proper ways to, prevent the submission. When I used to compete in the IBJJF a lot, I basically would only do open guard drills because I consider a pass or a sweep generally a win. Very rarely do people come back from that. But when we're forced to start in bad positions, and that might be for no time limit, it is even beneficial for IBJJF because I'm comfortable in those bad positions, I'm not as scared to lose position, and I can be more confident attacking my opponent. But back when I was doing IBJJF again, I would just be like, I consider a pass a win. I'd be like, let me ride this clock down for a bit.
Or even if you got your guard passed, then you might even be like a psychological blow. It's like, damn it, that's it. I lost the match on that one thing.
Exactly. I think a lot of IBJJF heavy guys that don't do a lot of bad position sparring, you see them break from the pass or from the back take. But I think some of the more submission-only guys, it isn't necessarily the end of the match for them. Potential to come back.
Got a question for you. These situational rounds you're describing there. Let's say, for example, you start in turtle, like you were saying. If you were to escape from the position, if you were to reverse position, would you then go back to the turtle and restart, or the round just starts in that position and you just go?
So you would start in turtle, and if you take the guy's back, you take side control, you take mount, keep going until submission. If he rolls, stands back up, gets back to guard, then we'd swap. We'd alternate every time.
Got it. Well, that makes sense. So you're both working, I see, you're working top and bottom of whichever position it is that you're doing. But
exactly, within the round. And
Nice.
I think it's good. A lot of people do like drills where everyone lines up on the wall and you start in positional sparring.
King of the hill, right?
Yeah, but you only necessarily go against that one same guy, maybe once in the whole time if it's a big class. So at least like when you're doing it with the same partner throughout the round, you get to see what they do and make adjustments on the fly, which doesn't work so well when you're doing a big group.
Who's your main training partner at Henzos?
Main training partner, any of the DDS guys really, like that. There's a core group of guys within the group, I guess, that everyone sees as famous and stuff. But there are other guys in there, like Jason Rao. I try to train with him as much as possible. That guy beats the shit out of me, but I love him anyway.
And you've even said that you consider Jason as one of the most technical guys in that room.
For sure, yeah, for sure. When Jason comes in, he used to come in a lot more. I'm not sure. I haven't been there in the last 6 months, but yeah, I definitely consider him one of the toughest guys, one of the hardest guys I've ever trained with. A lot of people will say that, and a lot about Jason Rao, and sometimes they see him in competition and his performance doesn't match up the training room. But I definitely think he's on the trajectory that's eventually going to match up, and I think he'll be one of the best guys in the world.
It's interesting because you're considerably bigger than him too, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. He's not even in great shape. He doesn't even look that jacked, but he still beats me up. Must be the technique.
Must be, I guess. Who else are you training with on a regular basis then? Obviously, we know Gordon, Nicky are on the mat. Who else?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, Ethan Krellenstein and Taza when they're in town. I love training with Taza. Obviously, shout out to him. He just won the, the Fanatics?
The Fanatics, yeah.
He wrist locked Ethan, which I was very, very happy about.
That's kind of crazy, right? Because Ethan and Taza, they got through to the final. And then, of course, the question is, whenever you see two teammates make it into the final, the first question is it going to be a legit match? Because, there are no closeouts in this. And if you can't close out, it's always the question of are they going to fake it,
Yeah, they
No,
looked.
you don't think they faked it?
Well, I'll be honest. I shouldn't say this, but we were driving. I can't remember which cities. We were driving somewhere in Arizona at the time, and we had the stream up, and I was driving the car trying to watch. And it did look like at the start they were going pretty light. But based on the pain I saw in Ethan's eyes of tapping to a wrist lock, I'm going to say it's real.
Yeah.
Not like this.
But Ethan did great too. Obviously undersized. Who did he beat that day? He beat Jonatas Gracie, which I think for him was a revenge match.
That's a good one. That's a big name as well.
Jonatas beat him at Nogi Worlds, I think maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And who else did Ethan take out that day? Well, he had a tough match against another Henzo guy, actually.
Another Henzo guy.
Another Henzo guy from Boston, yeah.
Oh, got it.
I think someone pulled out of the tournament. He
Just
replaced
pulling up these results right now. So yeah, Taza submitted PJ Barch in his first round.
That's big. Yeah,
And then submitted John Combs in the second, both by heel hook. Ethan beat a guy called Nick Fury in the first match, and then in the semi-final took on Jonatas Gracie, winning both those matches in overtime. That's pretty impressive, right? So when do you think they get promoted from being junior members of the squad?
I don't think John promotes Canadians. But,
What about Australians? I know he likes you guys.
he actually, me and my friend Isaac that train there, I think he really likes Australians. I don't know, it reminds him of the part of the world he's from,
Right,
New Zealand.
right.
But
He's a Kiwi. He's from New Zealand. So.
He's a Kiwi, yeah.
That's cool. Talking about the training there again, though, you were mentioning about the sort of the bodies in the room, but to learn from John. Everybody knows what an amazing mind John Danaher is. The guy is, he's changed the game over the last couple of years. And I just remember back to ADCC West Coast Trials in, I think it was like February last year. And it was the biggest West Coast Trials ever. I think the biggest trials in North American history. And John was sat there and literally 6 mats running at the same time. I believe every single mat in those early rounds, everybody was pulling guard and playing the leg lock system. And that's just the influence that he's had with the DVDs and stuff that he's been putting out. So this guy just sitting, a tangible impact on the jiu-jitsu community. But how about you personally, as an athlete, as a grappler, as a technician? What kind of impact has he had on you?
Yeah, obviously great impact. I think his biggest skill is recognizing trends. He sees the trend that's coming and he gets his guys ready, sort of ahead of the curve. And then when the guys start implementing that, obviously released a DVD on it, and we switched directions and stuff. But the best thing about training at Henzo's under John, right, is that the DDS guys all do very much the same game. It's one cohesive unit taken on the jiu-jitsu community, and when one of those guys has a fall, that system's adapted. Whereas I would say at most teams, you've got a coach and you've got a group of individuals doing their own thing. So that would be the difference to me. The strongest part of it is that we have a game plan and basically everyone's utilizing it. There's slight differences, but for the most part, everyone's using the same systems. Whereas most coaches will teach moves and the students they'll pick and choose. They'll be like, oh, I like that. Oh, that's my game. But for the most part, very different. Like a lot of other high-level teams, you couldn't assume one position they're all excellent at.
Yeah, you can maybe notice some similarities, but ultimately they're all very different athletes, right?
Yeah, very unique athletes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Has anyone ever joined? I mean, I know you don't train there full time, but I mean that might not work for everybody. Have you seen someone that might be a highly talented prospect that tries to join the gym, try out the system, and just doesn't work? Have you ever seen? I don't need names, but have you seen that happen? Something like that?
I haven't seen it yet. I probably haven't spent enough time there to really notice. I mean, Henzo's, since I've been there, obviously, it's always been a big gym, but it's basically a revolving door of people coming in and stuff. But yeah, but anyone that comes in that's pretty high successful level ends up moving in to the DDS group and training with those guys pretty much extensively. But yeah, I haven't seen anyone that's tried to adopt a game and really struggled with it. I think like high-level leg locks and stuff could be added to anyone's game pretty quickly in a meaningful way.
What about the other systems, though? We mentioned it earlier, sort of the back attack systems. You caught beautiful guillotine at ADCC, there's lots of stuff that you guys are working on. What are some of the things that you went there and you were like, oh my God, this is perfect. This has been a huge hole in my game. I'm so glad I'm able to put this system in place.
Well, I've probably been trying to copy those guys just off YouTube videos and stuff for a long time. So really going in there, apart from the newer stuff they've added, is basically them brushing up on what I've already attempted to steal over the last few years. Because when I first started watching the DDS guys, it was probably Eddie Cummings, Gary Tonin at EBI. And at the time, there was no one really to train with in Melbourne that was really that interested in leg locks. So it was basically me just breaking down YouTube videos, trying to copy those moves and add it in. And then when you get to the gym and you get to see the real thing and things get brushed up on. So that's probably it. They probably altered what I've already been trying to copy.
Interesting. How about the Japanese then? Is that ever confusing? Because John likes his Japanese terms, right?
I don't know any of them. I remember one time he got me to demonstrate. He used me as a UK in class. He said something in Japanese, and I did not know what he was talking about.
Like, could you tell me this in 10th Planet terms?
Can we speak Australian?
Did you have that moment of panic when you got like 60 guys all around you and John's telling you to do something? You're like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
I was worried, yeah, because sometimes he's mean to those UKs. But luckily he likes Australians.
That is cool. Let's talk about the competition then, because let's roll it back a little bit. Let's talk about ADCC, because that was such a wild tournament. ADCC 2019, biggest and best ADCC that we can remember years and years. Probably one of the most memorable ADCCs for many reasons. When you look back, what's your overall feeling about ADCC 2019?
Just the pink eye, probably.
Still stings?
Still stings a little bit, yeah. You know what? It's like getting silver medal kind of sucks because everyone congratulates you for it, but you really didn't do what you set out to do. So it's sort of like...
Second place is first loser, right?
First loser, yeah. If you ain't first, you're last, yeah. But yeah, it does sting a bit, but I neglected to do enough wrestling for that, which probably could have been the difference between me and Mateus Denise. But yeah, apart from that, really, the pink eye really stunk up the whole joint.
Man, you and Mateus have gone back and forth a bit now, right? How many matches have you had? Like 3, I think?
We've had 3 boring-ass matches. It's a terrible matchup. It like neutralizes each other, but
it is. It's one of those horrible things that where just styles just clash and they just don't mesh and shut each other down. And
yeah, that's why, obviously I want to get revenge against Denise, but I will definitely play my hand and give it a bit of time so that by the time I face off again, my game will have changed completely.
Right.
And I think if the old style didn't work, I have to adapt. There's no point going up against him multiple times, making you guys suffer through watching those matches.
Right, another preview, Craig Jones versus Mateus Denise. Wow.
Yeah, we've done that a few times.
Yeah.
Man, the ADCC, though, I mean, you mentioned the pink eye thing. You weren't the only one to have pink eye around the time of ADCC. It was like this epidemic, right? Yeah. It's like coronavirus levels of panic and scare going on at the time. People weren't handshaking each other. They were like not even fist bumping. They're like elbow tapping each other.
Yeah, no one would touch me. It was a lonely time.
The only time you actually got any physical contact was during the match, right? So
yeah.
But let's just put this straight though, because while some people had it and got rid of it, you actually had it like during the tournament, right?
During the tournament, yeah.
That must have sucked.
I won't name names, but there were some athletes trying to get me kicked out of the tournament for it.
Josh Hinger,
yeah.
No, he did. He's made no secret of that.
You know what?
Because he had it really bad, right?
Yeah,
he had it for like weeks and weeks, running up to ADCC, lost a chunk of his training camp and stuff, and then he gets there and he's like, God damn it, Craig's got this shit. He's passing it around. So
yeah. I will say, had it been any other event, had it been an event that's not every 2 years, for the sake of other competitors, I would have stepped down. But say, I apologize because Mason Fowler got it.
Oh, really?
Mason Fowler's like, don't apologize, bro. I would have done the same thing. You know what I mean? So people see it in different ways. But I will say it is a pretty serious thing because I got it about a week before the event. And I didn't train for about 10 days before ADCC because I didn't want to first catch it and then second give it to someone else.
Wow, okay.
So I had it at the event and my eye was messed up. And what made it worse is I had to cut about 3 kilos of weight every day. And the worst thing for it was being in the hot air of the steam and sauna.
Oh, my God.
So that made it worse again. And another strange thing that happened was the doc gave me some meds on the Saturday night, some steroids for the eyes.
Like inflammation or something? Like,
to reduce inflammation.
No, it's to make your eyes get jacked.
To get jacked. Someone did have a good quote. They're like, ADCC, where even your eyes are on steroids. But I had it, and actually gave me like some sort of stimulant effect. So I barely slept Saturday night, wired
no way.
all night. And by the time I fell asleep, my alarm went off, and I had to get up at like 5 a.m. to cut weight again.
Oh my God.
But then I'll say I had it for a month in a sense of when it was contagious. But my vision only came back 2 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks.
What?
Actually, probably
2-3 weeks later.
No. Probably came back when I was in Miami for Mo's camp. So actually mid-January.
Oh, seriously?
So
what was your vision like then from ADCC through till then? Like clouded or?
Yeah, so it was strange. It cleared up, and then just before I faced Adam Wadinsky, I woke up. I couldn't see out of my eye very clearly, and then apparently that's the white blood cells that were trying to cure the virus get stuck in the eye, and it can take up to 12 months to get your vision back. So my eyes were still light sensitive. I couldn't basically read out of my left eye. I was just like that. I just had to accept it. Some guys are still suffering. I know Miha's still on eye drops from it. He's still having eye problems.
Oh my God.
So it can be long lasting.
Wow, I had no idea it was still going on. I know JT Torres had a pretty long layoff as well.
Really?
Yeah.
God. Where do you think you caught it from?
I would assume Henzo's I got it from, because I mean it's called epidemic choroidal conjunctivitis, and like people were saying that if you were to touch your eye and touch a surface, it could live for 30 days on that surface. So it's like crazy contagious.
Like a door handle or anything
So I rested. I was seeing people drop like flies, so I rested at the end of camp because I was like, yo, if I haven't got it now, I got to be very, very careful I don't get it before ADCC. But it has like a 7-day incubation period. So I rested for no reason. I could have kept training a few more days, and then I couldn't train because of it.
Keenan lost out from ADCC. He couldn't do it. He had the super pink eye as well, right?
Yep. Well, there was some doctors and the eye doctors and stuff were giving a whole bunch of different recommendations to different people based on how to treat it.
Because it's kind of really, it's uncommon, right? So I think a lot of eye doctors were a little perplexed as to how to treat it properly.
Yeah. I mean, I tried everything. Before ADCC, I went to the doctor and got an iodine eye wash. So they fill your eye with iodine, flush it out, try and kill the virus in there and stuff. Yeah, it was
miserable.
Right. We had some anesthetic in there, yeah. But it was it was a bad experience having that. And so I would be sympathetic to guys trying to keep me out of the tournament, but I mean, it is.
So all that said and done, though, you go in there and you just like first couple matches, you wreck shop. 3 matches, 3 submissions. You and Hinger are actually going head to head to see who could get the most submissions in that division, right? But opening round, second round, semi-final, bang, bang, bang. That must have felt pretty good.
I was feeling very good because I was really feeling like maybe I could hit 4-4, like which obviously very rarely does someone win their division with all submissions. So that was the goal. Obviously, it was very difficult to affect Mateus's game, but yeah, I was feeling great. One of the toughest matches, I got to give a shout out to Mason Fowler. He really pushed the pace.
That was a wild match, man. That was really fun to watch.
He was just hard to get a hold of, that guy. It was like, he was coming down. What did he win the trials at 99? He moved down to 88. I believe he must have some sort of a wrestling base because his wrestling felt very good.
Yeah, so Mason actually, he also did a lot of MMA.
Right.
Yeah, so he did a lot of wrestling and MMA. And I could be, excuse me, Mason, if I'm spreading misinformation here, but I'm pretty sure that he was that he got some like concussions and like had some head injuries via training MMA, and was like made the call and was like, man, I don't want to sacrifice my brain cells and switch to kind of focus on pure grappling. So
you're telling me next time I should throw some head snaps in?
Yeah, Nicky Rod style.
I'm coming for it. Yeah, but his wrestling felt very good. I got the Hail Mary. I felt like I almost had him in a submission the entire match, and it was gassing me out. I was trying to choke him, and got the Hail Mary. I think 20 seconds to go out of bounds.
Yeah,
but yeah, I definitely gave him the wrestling edge for sure. He felt like he had excellent wrestling.
And then you had a match against John Blank as well, and John's man, he was a trials winner, right? Oh no, actually no, he got the invite, right? John got the invite.
Did he win East Coast trials?
He lost to Josh Hinger at the trials.
West Coast.
And I think he won bronze by beating Jimenez for the bronze medal match.
Yeah, so he was I think he was a replacement, like an alternate.
Out,
yeah, but John's super tough, and did you see that he just won a Grapple Fest last weekend?
I saw he heel hooked Wadinsky. I didn't watch that. How early into the match was that?
A minute and 20, a minute and a half.
Oh, so it's a quick one.
Yeah, it was. Right. Yeah, so and then Adam, you fought Adam too, right? So,
I fought Adam as well. Yeah, so it's cool. I was trying to almost get to everyone in the division. You know what I mean? Trying to face off against everyone. I respect Adam for he's obviously IBJJF heavy guy, but he's trying to move into, I guess, the heel hook domain. Obviously,
he did pretty good at ADCC though. I mean, you fought each other in submission only as well, so it's proving that he's switching rule sets and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's like had a consistent effort into this rule set, and hopefully he sticks at it because he's a pretty damn tough guy.
Nice. And then the final with Mateus. What would you do differently if you could go back in that match? What would you do differently?
It would be difficult to say what I would change in the match, as much as I would have worked more wrestling in the camp and focused on using wrestling, because I believe Denise's strength is going to be wrestling and basically smashing your attacks.
Right.
The difficult part with the Denise match, and what's frustrating to me, is it feels like he's good enough to pass my guard. It feels like he could pass it if he tried, but he doesn't really try.
He's quite conservative, right?
Yeah, so he's like, I'm like trying to have an exchange with him. And like, this isn't even me saying anything bad about him. I believe he could pass my guard, but he actually doesn't make the commitment for that next step to happen.
Probably because he knows that you go after
The risk, right? Yeah, and it's better to play it safe to win in your area. Obviously, if I would give him the wrestling edge, so if it went to overtime, yeah. But that's what's the frustrating thing about it, because one of us could get submitted, but I believe he could pass my guard and submit me, but we don't get close enough to really those exchanges.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, different approach, much more wrestling heavy. I think by the time next ADCC rolls around, I'll be trying to make sure that my wrestling is one of my strongest areas.
Do you think some people are really committed to a game plan? I think both you and Mateus stuck to what you thought was going to win the match, which resulted in kind of a stalemate there. Is it a strength to be able to be mentally tough enough to not give in to like switching it up, like getting frustrated, saying, I'm just going to do something different, I'm going to come up and try and wrestle him? Or do you think maybe it's better to be more flexible? What do you think about that?
I think it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is just purely achievement-based, and that's just to win medals, then it is definitely a strength to not abandon the game plan, especially if we're hearing boos from the crowd. If you're happy with that reaction to win, then for sure, sticking to the game plan is a good approach. But the way I see it these days is submissions literally equal money. If you go out there and submit guys, people are going to come to your seminars. They're going to buy your DVDs. They're going to be interested in what you're doing, and you're going to develop real fans. For me these days, it's easy for me to say I haven't won nothing, but I feel like it's more about how you win than what you win. The best example of that would be like a Lachlan Giles, right? The big stars that come out of ADCC are the guys that have those crazy moments, and those moments usually involve a submission. So if your goal is to attain sort of somewhat of a stardom in the sport, have people love you and really want to learn what you're doing, then at the end of the day, you've got to attack submission. You've got to go out there to finish your opponents. Guys like Gordon Ryan, Roger Gracie, Marcelo Garcia. If you want to become a legend of the sport, winning and getting submissions. But if you just are purely focused on achievement-based, getting medals, then for sure stick to the game plan, and that'll keep you strong for that position.
Yeah, it's almost like that bronze medal. That was the goldest bronze medal we've ever seen, right? Because
the people's champ. It's true.
It really was. I mean, like that bronze medal at the ADCC Absolute Division. Lachlan just going out there and doing it that rather than just squeaking out like a couple of conservative wins or something. He'll be remembered forever. But I go back one ADCC, two ADCCs, try to name the absolute bronze medalist.
Yeah,
it's like you suddenly, oh shit, hang on a second, let me just pull up BJJ Heroes, right? But no, it's like so. But yeah, you're right. It's like performances do matter, and that's a great question actually. Then it's like for you, how much does that influence what you do when you compete? Because obviously you want a submission, no question. You don't want to just go out and win by laying on a guy, but is that in your mind when you compete? Are you like, I need to put on a show?
I mean, not to the extent of, I think, like Gary Tonin, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
But it definitely plays a factor. Like, I want to perform in a way that people want to watch me compete, which is I've had some high hits and I've had some low misses. I've probably been in some of the most exciting and boring matches of all time. But the goal, if it's possible through my end, is to make it as exciting as possible. That's not to say if I'm up by a significant amount of points, times running out, I'm going to try a flying armbar or something. You know what I mean? We've got to keep it in perspective, but the goal will always be to finish him. And I think like Gary Tonin, obviously he's won some EBIs and stuff, and it was good to see him medal at ADCC this year. But for sure, that guy's probably the most entertaining guy in the sport, most watched, one of the most loved.
2019 Match of the Year winner in the FloGrappling Awards. So.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. So I mean, it's how you want to be remembered in the sport. You know what I mean? We all can't be Marcelo Garcia and win everything and submit everyone, but we could at least try to move in that direction. I think that would take the sport to another level.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is personality as well, right? Because some guys, Gary's a natural showman. So
yeah, he loves it. He loves putting on a show.
Yeah, I mean, even if his record was terrible, I mean, luckily he's good, so he can back it up. But even if his record was terrible, he would still go out there and do the same kind of thing. But Jeff Glover is another great example, a guy who's more interested in putting on a show necessarily than the end result, although, of course, you want to win. But then there are some guys who are just it's winning at all cost, and it doesn't matter. It can be an ugly match, but the medal is what matters the most, right?
Exactly, and that's a real personal thing. You know what I mean? If that's what matters the most to you, go for it. You know what I mean? But if you really, obviously, legendary status, or if you want to go, like if you want to have a Lachlan Giles moment, that's probably not going to come from a points victory necessarily. Because, I mean, Lachlan's basically retired.
Well, he certainly could. He doesn't need to come back, right? I mean, of course we hope he will, but
You guys got to persuade him.
Oh, I'm sure we could work on that. But he could easily go out on top right now and just live the rest of his career selling DVDs and doing seminars and stuff, and forever be remembered for that, right? But
Yeah, everyone will remember that moment forever. It is like just iconic. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think what is it? He's been competing for I think 16, 17 years. So it's also displaying like perseverance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some guys, I mean, if you haven't had your moment after 12, 13 years, some guys probably won't even keep competing.
Right.
But like Lockie kept growing and growing and growing. And it also says about the game plan, you know what I mean? What he did isn't a trick, but he brought something to the table that a lot of people hadn't seen. They thought they understood the way heel hook entries happened, changed it up, and it worked for him.
For some people who maybe aren't sort of, let's say, the real in-depth students of the leg lock game, they might just think that it looks very similar. You know, oh yeah, a couple of inside heel hooks against big dudes, go for the weak spot, you know? But as a leg lock connoisseur, maybe you can help break it down for us a little bit. So what was it that he was doing differently?
So basically, I believe he was influenced, and anyone that creates a new thing is going to take influence from elsewhere, right? So I believe his approach is something that like the Meow brothers would do to enter 50-50, or like a good Tommy Langlacker in the gi. What are they? The Matrix guard, right?
Yep.
So for the most part, you want to have inside position. So we'll play butterfly guard, and if we can elevate you, we can get you into single X Ashigarami, right? And if our opponent's standing, we're still trying to keep inside position. Lachlan Giles let go of that battle, and he allowed his opponent to step inside, and they would win inside position, and that would leave him in somewhat of a Delahiva guard position. So he's given up the first battle there, in basically what you would traditionally think is winning the leg lock battle, winning the inside space. And then he came up with an entry that was, again, very similar to what Tommy Langlacker would do to enter his Matrix guard, and he would berimbolo out of there, or what Meow would do to enter 50-50. And he exposed the heel from that K-guard style entry. And a lot of the big guys, obviously worked very well on the big guys because they would try to remain on top in that position. Had they rolled to 50-50, they could have prevented the heel exposure. Obviously, they're still now in 50-50 guard with a guy that's way better at the position, but it would have prolonged the battle. So I think that's basically what he did from that position, and it was that backside 50-50 position. So something Ryan Hall uses for MMA because he's out of range to get hit from there. And another thing those guys did that made it easy for them to get put into that position is, say, like, Kainan is a guy that passes with low posture but straight legs. So what he does is Toriando style, and he's looking, if you go to the legs to get a back take, he actually sadly did that to me. But his style of passing is perfect for the K-guard entry because his legs are straight. Lockie can invert and attack from an angle where his back can't really be taken. So I think that's very interesting. If you watch his match with Lucas Lepre was all about pressure passing.
And super low.
Super low, bent knees, and that's going to make the inversion to the K-guard more difficult. So those two contrasts in styles of passing is what allowed Lachlan to do it in absolute, and obviously Lepre shut it down for weight.
Now you've obviously have got a lot of time spent training with Lachlan, but all the traveling that you've been doing over the last couple of years, were you kind of around when he was developing this, or was it something that you guys got to work on at all?
I honestly can't even remember. I don't know if he was doing that same stuff when I was there the previous time, but usually Lockie's a guy that tries to innovate all the time. So like if I'm there, he's always trying some crazy new thing on me. You know what I mean? So potentially he was trying it on me back then, and I don't remember. But yeah, I know we had looked at using that sort of the K-guard style entry, but like different ways to engage the leg. For me, I was probably a bit narrow-minded, thinking that the legs had played out. You know what I mean? Like we had this wave. We had like the SAD or the inside Senkaku 10th planet.
Seems like everybody caught up for a bit, right?
Exactly. And I thought it had almost played out. And what Gordon had adapted the position to be mainly a sweeping position, which he used from IBJJF. I thought maybe the legs had played out in this sense, that there wasn't going to be too much more innovation. But then I guess a lot of people felt the same way. They felt they understood how to hide the heel from the saddle. It was hard to expose the heel. People were catching up, and he just took it in a different direction. So it just goes to show that sometimes when you think the innovation's over, that wave's done, that someone can bring something new to the table.
How did you feel watching him, go through that absolute division? Because you'd already finished for the day by that point, right?
Yeah. I was happy he took care of Kainan for me. He got some revenge for me against that guy. But I mean, for me, watching it, right, so obviously Liv's in the corner. I was up in the stands for the Kainan match. I think at that point, because I wasn't doing absolute, they basically kicked me out of the downstairs section. And I was watching him against Kainan, and I was seeing he was getting closer and closer, and I almost felt like Kainan was taking a breather, being a bit too complacent from the position. He sort of probably hadn't experienced those type of entries before, and he got caught, and that was crazy. And we ran downstairs. We wanted to be up close for the next match, right? And what I watched was Mike Perez, Patrick Gaudio go to war. And I thought Gaudio had a heart attack and died. He was laying on the floor. They were trying to resuscitate him, right? And from my memory, I could see Gaudio. They told him, they're like, Gaudio, 5 more minutes. And he was still laying on the floor. And he did not want to jump in for that next match yet. But I swear he looked up and he saw it was a little guy. He was like, "I'll get in there." And then obviously didn't see what happened to Kainan.
Yeah.
Lachlan was able to use the same style entry, that K-guard style entry, and get it off. But me personally, I figured he got Kainan. And that's nothing to say anything against Gaudio or Muhammad Ali. But in my opinion, Muhammad Ali's intimidating because he's big, and Gaudio is very strong. But obviously, Gaudio was having a heart attack. I figured if he had the technical ability to catch Kainan, he should beat these next two guys.
I mean, Kainan literally just won the gold medal in the over 99 division.
Just won the gold medal, yeah. So, I mean, that was the way I saw it play out. Was I was like, basically, he's probably going to take care of Gaudio, especially given how tired Gaudio is. And Muhammad Ali sort of fell straight into the same trap. But what was most cool about it was how those guys laughed it off. You know what I mean? Those guys were there laughing. They got done with the same move by this little guy.
You saw they like sent a photo of the three of them together, with, like ice packs on their knees, and they're like, "Hi, Australia."
I saw Kainan as well saying about how Lachlan Charles owes him some money for DVD sales. That was pretty funny. And then obviously we saw Gordon and him play out, which very, very interesting to watch.
What do you think about that match? Gordon was very adamant that it wasn't competitive, that he was totally safe. But I was Matt's side, and I do feel like I saw a little bit of, not panic, but like, ooh, I better get out of this real quick. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I mean, it's hard for me to have ever seen a time when Gordon Ryan looks flustered in a match.
Even when you had his arm.
Even when I had the arm, he was chilling, So, like, for me, watching it play out, I was really interested because I don't think, I certainly wasn't going for those same style entries on Gordon in the gym. Obviously, had a lot of faith that Gordon, he's the best, you know what I mean? So that he would be able to adequately deal with it. But yeah, it was very interesting. It was one of those moments where everyone was having the same thought, like, could it be? You know what I mean? But for me, watching, I thought maybe the size would definitely play a factor in that. You saw Gordon did have his legs engaged. He did get knocked to his butt. But it was almost like he was like, all right, that's it, and just squashed and got to top position. But yeah, for a second there, it was like, oh, maybe could be the greatest upset probably of all time.
I've never even seen Gordon get close to, a leg lock in any of his matches. Like, he's always so dominant, and I think people were even afraid of going into sort of that battle with him. So it was kind of gutsy for Lachlan to go after the legs. But I'm kind of curious, though. I mean, what's it like in the gym? Are people going after Gordon's legs, considering his size, considering his technique?
For sure, we go after his legs. I don't think I've ever heel hooked him in the gym. I see Jason Rao go after his legs a lot too. But yeah, he's very difficult to heel hook. And I think for him, it all just comes down to confidence.
Right.
Like, he's so confident, not even in his physical strength and stuff, just in his technique. Mm-hmm. His knowledge is really, really strong. Like, if something happens bad in my match, he'll give me a reference match to go and watch to see something else I could have done. So, like, although Gordon doesn't look like, he's sort of like a bit of a super nerd, and that's where he gets his confidence from.
Super nerd.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It's the first time we've ever heard Gordon called that. But
when it comes to pure technique and match studies and stuff, that's the way I think of him.
Because John is a huge proponent of studying tape. right? And is it true that he actually gives you guys homework sometimes? He'll send you off and tell you to watch certain things?
Nah, not me. I think I got to master the Japanese first.
Gotta get your basic studies out of the way.
Yeah.
But Gordon has mentioned about how John, sits in the little office there at Henzo's, and he's always watching videos and watching tape and studying and coming in with new stuff. And Gordon, for all his personality and his brashness and his cockiness and his persona, let's say, that he is, let's make no bones about it, he's a very intelligent grappler. He's not purely like just some physical beast. His technique is off the charts, right?
For sure. And I think there's something that can be said about the smack talk he does before matches, right? Because it can be hard to get motivated to train, right? And like, I'm not a big fan. I might do some creative, poking fun, like Australian banter style.
Banter, exactly.
Smack talk. But I'm never really saying something that I'm going to regret, right? But Gordon, he says so much stuff about people's game. Like, classic example would be his recent match with Tex, right? Mm-hmm. He said horrible things. He said all these things that he puts so much more pressure on himself when he competes. I think it takes him to a mental state that he has to get this done because he's putting more on the line.
That's interesting because a lot of people might think it's psychological warfare directed as an opponent, but you're actually saying in effect he's hyping himself up.
Yeah, we just did that camp in Miami, and Henry Cejudo was there, and he was saying sort of when he changed his personality, he used to be like less vocal, right?
Yeah.
He said when he started throwing that smack talk out there, it took him to a mental state that he had to train harder to back it up. So I think it's also a tool someone could do themselves.
That makes a lot of sense as well because, let's be honest, there aren't that many people out there who can challenge Gordon nowadays. There are very few grapplers in the world. There's a very short list of matches that people would even consider to be competitive because he is that good. He's that far ahead of the rest of the field. So, to get hyped up, to get motivated for matches like that when you're like, I can smoke this guy.
It also sells it a bit too. You know what I mean? Sells the upset, right? Floyd Mayweather style.
But you want to try that.
I'm not brave enough. I'll be that guy that talks a bunch of smack and someone makes a viral video of me getting put to sleep or something. I'm too scared of that happening.
But you do have your own brand. I mean, a lot of it's actually, self-deprecating a little bit, like fuck Craig Jones, of course, rash guard and all that. How important is it, do you believe, for not just up and coming but established guys to put some time into that? I feel like you do market yourself not just based on results. Like you do have your own voice, your own personality out there, and a lot of people are really negative about that. They think it's only like Gordon, it's only negative, but I think you've shown that you can have your own style out there.
Yeah, I think that sort of just grew out of some of the memes that were created after that ADCC in 2017 and stuff. Yeah, but I think it's very important to differentiate yourself from everyone else. You know what I mean? You got to have you got to have an audience. You got to have an audience. You know what I mean? If you want to have fans that come to your seminars and stuff, you got to try and build an audience. And luckily, Australians are generally pretty likable, so I can always fall back on that market. You know what I mean? But the self-deprecating is probably an Australian thing also. But I feel like I get a bit more liberty to insult others as long as I'm insulting myself. You know what I mean? I'm happy to laugh at myself. Some of the best jokes that people have put out that I've seen in jiu-jitsu are usually making fun of me, and I really get behind that.
How many people would wear a t-shirt with them, F themselves on it, right?
Yeah. Well, we did it as a joke, actually. Back in Absolute, we used to have a Wednesday night super fights. We'd be like, sort of like what Atos would do. I think we stole the idea from them, where two guys would go in and it'd be first point wins. Everyone's watching, try to replicate competition, anxiety. I remember one of the guys got drunk one night and he was like, "Fuck Craig Jones, I'm scoring a point on him next time." We might even have the video somewhere. And then he started hashtag. I should give him credit, Aaron Peterson. He started hashtagging, and then my sponsors were like, "Let's just fucking put it on a rash guard." Turned out to be very popular. The leopard print too. The leopard print was sort of a joke. I was like,
the leopard print blew up, right?
Yeah.
You're almost as well known for that now as you are for the F. Craig Jones shirt.
Dylan Dennis is trying to steal it, but
and Perez,
yeah.
Jacking your swag.
Even the leopard print's so popular. I was in Kazakhstan recently, and we're out. We weren't even hunting. We just had guns, and we're just doing some fun stuff. But I put a joke about killing snow leopards. And then so people hated me for that. Obviously,
They kind of freaked out about that. They didn't get.
I missed this.
I remember
I
this.
could have gone to
remember this
prison.
well, yeah. So snow leopards are protected species, right? They're incredibly endangered. They're like rarely seen in the wild. They're like these semi-mythical
Wait,
creatures.
you were gonna make a new pair of shorts out of one? Was that the joke?
Well,
That was the joke.
Here's the thing is that we made the joke. People were very angry about it, right? And obviously, I'm hunting snow leopards. I don't want to end up in a Kazakh prison, right? Then the next day, I should give him credit, but I can't remember. He made the leopard print outfit. He turned it snow leopard, and I put that up. And I was like, guys, we got a new design. And then actually, people were so excited, thinking that that was a real print, that now we've got it in production. We're going to be making snow leopards. So the leopard print for me was just something. I was like, what can be obnoxious and get some attention coming forward? But they really got behind it, eh?
New nickname, maybe Craig the Snow Leopard Jones.
Snow leopard. Sometimes I wonder what I could put out and see if people actually enjoyed it.
Man, Kazakhstan, though, you mentioned that. Like, that's another one of those wild destinations that you seem to find yourself going to again and again, right? What is it about Kazakhstan? Why does the Craig Jones keep ending up in Kazakhstan?
All right, so 2016, was it? Yeah, 2016 ADCC trials are in Kazakhstan. And we went over there, and there was a guy called Alan that funded. He tried to get. I believe he almost got ADCC 2021. I think he was trying to get it in Kazakhstan.
He was trying. Yeah.
He was trying. Yeah. So we went out there. We had a great time with those guys. They had just a wild time. They really took care of us, like Kazakh hospitality and stuff. And I've just stayed in touch with them ever since. I remember. So we did the Kazakh trials. I think it might have been September. I came back for their super fight show in November. And this is the sort of crazy stuff that happens over there. I'm hanging out, and Alan's guy, Tuligan's like, do you want to come to Alan's birthday party next week? And I was like, sounds great. He's like, he called it Mariki. And I was like, all right, that's going to be some city in Kazakhstan. You know what I mean? They pick me up a couple days later, take me to the airport, and we get on a private plane and fly to Mauritius in Africa. And Alan rented out
the beautiful paradise, like Indian Ocean island, right?
Beautiful. And Alan had rented out the entire resort for his friends and family. And we were there for 3 days, just in absolute luxury. And those guys are a lot of fun. The jiu-jitsu is actually really good out there, really impressive.
So people don't even realize, but there's a really strong jiu-jitsu and grappling scene in Kazakhstan, right?
Yeah, very passionate. So I remember when we were at the trials, no one was tapping to anything. I remember there was a guy, this poor guy, I don't know whatever happened to him. He got put in 2 outside heel hooks, one on each leg, and let them both break. And he didn't tap till he got put in an armbar later.
You tapped to the armbar?
There were a lot of injuries at that event. Very passionate guys, but they are very good. There's a guy called Osman. Osman faced Lachlan Giles at that same trials. Lachlan heel hooked him. He didn't tap until the point he was physically screaming.
Oh, I think I saw that video. Yeah, I remember that.
Screaming, being carried off. That's just before I'm going out for my match, which is not really what you want to see. You know what I mean? But Osman, I thought his career was over. It was that bad. 6 months later, wins the Japanese trials. And then he went against Lucas Lepre first round, ended up fireman's carrying him before points period. But really good wrestlers out there.
What do you think it is about Kazakhstan that they took to jiu-jitsu so well?
I don't know. I think they have a base in wrestling. They love combat sports. Like, I think these guys got the UFC going out there soon.
That's right. Yeah, they just announced the first event over there.
I've talked about this in the past, but like Russia and a lot of the former Soviet states, they already have like a real strong sort of grappling scene of their own with judo, with sambo, with wrestling, and then with all those indigenous wrestling styles as well that they've had. And they just love to fight. I think that's the other thing, right? They have a very combative nature in their personality as a culture.
They told me an interesting story about why combat sports are so cherished in athletes in general, but specifically combat sports, because when the Soviet Union fell in 91, there wasn't police force, there wasn't really a system of government going along. So there were a lot of mobsters that were born out of taking the big athletes from wrestling and stuff and muscling in and taking assets in the community and stuff. And then ever since then, I guess they've been attracted to combat sports athletes. But definitely those Eastern Bloc countries, very, very well respected.
It's true, man. They actually, I read a really, really good book about this because it happened in all of the former communist countries, that after communism fell, they had what were state-sponsored training facilities. So you could be a boxer, you could be a weightlifter, you could be a judo whatever, judoka. You could be a wrestler, and you would get paid to train full-time athlete. Just go and win Olympic gold every 4 years. And then when communism fell and that money stopped, they're like, we need something to do. So they all just became gangsters.
It's a crazy story. Hey?
Yeah. And, looking at that part of the world as well. But they really prize things like the traditional sort of masculine values, right? About being strong, about being a protector of the family, about being able to fight and defend themselves and their country. So,
tough guys out there. Another crazy story was I went there recently, right? Because upon coming to the US this time, I thought I only had a 90-day entry. So I had to kill some time in Europe before I came over for a quintet and a match with Gilbert Burns. So I was killing time, and I was like, I'm just going to go back to Kazakhstan and surprise these guys. So I just showed up, and they had a tournament, and we were hanging out. And the guy took me this time. Milan took me to his hunting retreat, right? So we drove.
House in the country kind of thing.
Drove like 5 hours. I think we even at one point crossed the border illegally into Kyrgyzstan, and he owns what's equivalent to like a national park. And I mean, we were driving for like 3 hours in just his private hunting resort. And when we got there, it was like 5-star luxury. But that's when we made the jokes about snow leopards that I got in trouble for.
Let's open it up for some fan questions, shall we? Because we've got a couple coming in here.
Is Mo on there?
I'm looking for him. I haven't seen Mo.
He dropped a couple questions, but a couple comments, but he's been pretty chill. But actually, how about we just start off with that? Just the fact that Mo's been there. So how was the training camp with Mo put on in Miami?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, amazing, right? So this is the second time I've done one of the
Modolfo camps?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And this one, we're in Miami. We're training at Black House. I'm going to forget some people, but we had me, Ethan, Taza, Gordon, JT Torres, Kainan, the Rotolos, Mike Perez.
Nikki as well?
And Nicky Ryan, yeah. Oh, I'll get in trouble. And he also brought in Henry Cejudo to teach us wrestling every night.
Right. And I thinking Mocco came around as well?
Yep, Steve Mocco was there as well. Mike Brown came down for one of the sessions as well.
Wow.
But yeah, we would train jiu-jitsu every day. We would have wrestling classes at night. Cejudo would be teaching us wrestling moves. Cejudo wasn't training. I think he just had stem cells to injure an old injury, probably a wrestling injury, right?
Wow.
But in between each session, Mo had us like private chef. We was like just absolute luxury. Luxury that most, I guess, jiu-jitsu guys don't really get a taste of, right?
You've been throwing that phrase around a lot here, Craig.
Luxury.
Kazakhstan, Mo.
Oh, yeah.
The most luxury grappler on earth.
I'm getting used to it.
But the training was very tough, though, in Miami.
Yeah, very, very tough training. Obviously, we were rolling with all those guys. It was good. I actually trained with the Atos crew way back in the day. Like, maybe I used to do geek camps there.
Oh, that's right. You went to San Diego, right?
2013, 2014, yeah. So I'd trained, bro, with Perez before. I'd even rolled with JT Torres before. I didn't tell JT, but he actually gave me my first cauliflower ear.
No way.
He knee-rode my ear.
Oh, wow.
So thank you for that, JT. But yeah.
They do say that his pressure is legendary.
Very strong.
Yeah.
He's not a big guy.
No,
know?
he's not.
And he doesn't look jacked, but yeah, the pressure he generates in passing is just unbelievable.
Wow.
So for me, I mean, I still feel like a bit of a fanboy. So getting to hang out, have this experience, train with all these guys was pretty amazing.
Very cool.
But yeah, we got a DVD coming out, and you guys will be able to see a lot of the rolling.
All the rolls.
All the rolls, yeah.
Wow. Any creative editing? Or
Hopefully
is it just
for my
sake. Have you been tested for coronavirus? Asks Rene Souza.
Well, this is funny. Hey, so like...
You did get really sick recently.
Oh, yeah, I was sick. I wouldn't say I was dying or anything, but I went to Portland for seminars. We left Portland, we went to Reno. Or Salt Lake City, I can't even remember. I'm all over the place. But yeah, I ended up catching like a pretty nasty cold like thing for maybe 2.5 weeks. And when I was Googling, the symptoms were very similar to corona. But... this is like, what did I roll? I rolled with like 30, 40 people every seminar. Tried to roll with everyone afterwards. So obviously, it's a bad time to do that when there's a virus outbreak, but also a bad time to do it when you think you might have the virus. So
oh, yeah.
I might have spread something else like pink eye.
We just got patient zero over here, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned as well, you've been training at 10th Planet here in Austin this week, and you've got a seminar coming up, but you've been training with them as much as possible because you've actually said you're not rolling at the seminar this time. Yeah,
this Saturday I have to catch a flight straight back to New York, so to start the stint in New York. So I've been training there every day. I think we're training there this afternoon and tomorrow. So I'm trying to roll with the whole team before I bail out of the seminar and run.
So it's not the virus fears that are putting you off then.
It's not the virus fears, no.
Man, for a guy who spends as much time in airplanes as you, the least of your worries, right? Who are some of your favorite grapplers, gi or no gi, past or present? Asks Marky Coleman.
Oh, see, this is a question that gets you in trouble, right? But I'll say when I was coming up, when I was having the biggest fanboy moments, was probably when Braulio Estima had his run at ADCC.
Like 2009, 2011?
Yeah, around
2011, yeah.
Around that time. So that guy was really someone I loved watching. Obviously, he had some really creative submissions. What Estima look, he had his reverse triangles and stuff. So for me, like, one of my favorite times to watch grappling is still going back and watching Braulio's matches from the ADCC run. It was incredible. And I actually got to train with him last year at Mo's camp in Puerto Rico.
Oh, very
Yeah,
cool.
So they brought Braulio in. So Braulio is a character. He's entertaining.
He's
and
very charismatic.
Very charismatic. And he's still got it, you know. I
Oh,
always
yeah.
say those roles were very, very difficult.
Really? Did
He
you
beat
learn
me
some
up
stuff
a
from
little.
him?
Yeah, he was showing some stuff for sure. What was sad is he's enjoying life and I'm training hard and it's still...
He's
He
still
needs to
that
hurry
He's
good.
like on vacation, like,
I
let's
know.
get one.
He's on vacation. He beat me up in denim shorts and no shirt.
Cut off jean shorts.
Cut off jean shorts, which is a brave
dope.
statement in itself, but
If you're Braulio, you're good to go with that.
you can
yeah.
get away with it.
You kind of got similar body types as well, right? Very tall, long legs. So
Yeah, I'm like a slightly shorter version. I think he's like 6'4". Do you guys know? I don't know.
he's big. He's
yeah.
6'3", 6'4", easily. Yeah, but you know, long legs. He's got that great reverse triangle system. Did you get a look at that at all? Or
Yeah, he was showing me some stuff with that.
oh yeah.
Amazing to train with. He's still got the tricks, you know.
Did you look at the Estima lock at all?
I did. I used to do it a lot, actually. I hit it. I've hit it in competition, only in the gi though. I always found when I was training the gi, the foot was a bit stickier there
Because of the friction, right?
because of the friction.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some guys still make it work in no gi. I just probably don't have the technique down.
Nice. Let's see what else we got here. Craig's opinion on the Berimbolo.
Berimbolo. I love the Berimbolo, yeah. Actually, going back, I used to, when I first started traveling in America to try and pick up some jiu-jitsu techniques, I would get eaten alive with the Berimbolo. So I remember way back in 2013, me and my friend, Lachlan Warren, we were drilling the Berimbolo on our hotel carpet floor after getting beaten up with it. The guy at the time that beat me up was, you guys remember Rehan Mutalib?
Yeah. The Cabrini Alliance black belt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
trained there, and he just beat the shit out of me with that. So then we were trying to figure out in the hotel room, and then we took that back to Australia to try and sort of have a technological edge in the jiu-jitsu game. But yeah,
At that time, the Berimbolo was something kind of exotic, right?
yeah, it was like cutting edge, right?
Amazing how things have changed. Now you see freaking white belts doing that in tournaments.
Yeah.
Basics. I got a good question here that we should touch on a little bit. What do you think about the Mikey Musumeci 10K challenge in his match with Herbert Santos?
I mean, that's pretty cool. Mikey's got some big balls. I'm happy that he's actually jumping in the absolute. When was the last time a roosterweight competed in the absolute division? Has that ever
black
happened?
belt. I don't know.
I swear he watched Lockie at ADCC. Was like, hold my beer.
Maybe I'll hold my pasta for Mikey, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Herbert Santos. I mean, you never know what Herbert's going to get, but obviously when he's at the top of his game, that's a scary guy. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'll be watching that. I still watch a lot of gi jiu-jitsu, except because I live out of a suitcase. That's a lot of luggage space, those gis. But yeah, I miss it. I'll probably go back to training in it one day, just when I have a less serious take on no gi competition.
That's interesting. So, you know, when was the last time you put on a gi?
I competed in the Spider Invitational against DJ Jackson. It was a terrible match. I think I only competed once before that at Black Belt in just a local event. The last real big event I did was the UAE World Pro as a brown belt.
Wow, 2016.
You had a match with Marigali there, I remember.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. Marigali leg dragged me and knee dropped me, but he actually kneed me in the face. And it was like a boxing match. My mouth guard went flying.
No
and then
way.
he choked me. But that back then, I think I got third in weight. And they used to do absolute, and I got fourth in absolute. Tommy Langlacker was my nemesis in the gi back then. He beat me a few times.
Wow, that's another era. That's like going way, way back. Things
long
have changed
time,
so
yeah.
much, right? But the Mikey thing, though, going back to it, I mean, like, give us a prediction on how you see Mikey versus Herbert going, because, you know, you've got Mikey who's walking around maybe 140, 145 pounds. Herbert, a solid 220, cuts to 220, no less.
Yeah.
It's a 80-something, or thereabouts, 80-pound weight difference.
It's just a 10-minute points match?
10-minute points, gi match. How do you see it going?
I mean, Mikey, I think he's too small to be passed. You know what I mean? So as long as he gets off the guard pole, I think he's gonna edge that out, probably on points. I think if he did get a good position, there's a good chance he would tap Herbert. I think Urbas, he has an amazing counter to the guard pull where he like flies into mount. So
Did it to Felipe Pena that one year, remember?
Yeah, when he broke his arm, right?
It was the same year. Yeah, it was in January. Urbeth broke Felipe's arm, and then Felipe was out for months and months, and then they came back and they fought again at World Pro in the April, and yeah, I mean Felipe won the match, but there was that moment where just
levitates.
Yeah, he really does.
That Europeans match, one of the best matches of all time.
Of all times.
Top 10 match for sure.
Absolutely, literally, yeah.
So I'm super excited. I think Urbeth, I mean, potentially, if he did that floating, I don't even, what do you guys even call that?
Ricardo Amendolia calls it the guard pull interception.
Guard pull interception, I like it.
Yeah.
But Urbeth is also a scary dude. And when it comes to grappling, he's not a very nice dude either. He doesn't
10K on the line.
Especially with 10K on the line. That's a lot of money. But he doesn't ease things on, let's say, when it comes in a match, right? So
I do feel like Muhammad was really nice to Mikey. I mean, it was a very technical match, but he didn't Hulk out on him. Urbeth probably will. I mean, there's no
especially
reason
if he gets that knee bar, right?
Exactly. So therethere's a lot on the line, a lot more, I think, than 10K. Like Urbeth doesn't want to lose to Roosterweight, and Mikey wants to walk away with both legs.
Yeah,
so.
you know, Urbeth needs the money because I'm not taking any matches against Roosterweight. My ego couldn't handle losing to a Roosterweight.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
How would you handle Urbeth?
I would just try to leg lock him.
Yeah.
Go for the heel hook. Although, what's interesting, though, if Urbeth could adapt his gi game to the no-gi, and the current meta for heel hooks has gone back to 50-50 guard.
Right.
Very strong position for Urbeth.
Yeah, he's really good there. He really is. He's hit the knee bar from there a bunch of times in the gi.
I remember watching back Copa Podio. He hit it on Leandro low, and then Leandro ate the knee bar, let it pop, and then took his back.
That's right. He knee barred Marigali at Copa Podio with the same
That's
thing.
right, the same event.
Yeah.
I hope Urbeth comes back, makes a good run, gets his shit together, because there are some gi competitors and no gi competitors that aren't very exciting, but Urbeth's always one of the exciting ones.
Yeah, well, we love watching him compete, right? He's you never know what to expect, I think is the best way to describe it.
Hopefully he doesn't attack Kai Terra in the crowd.
Let's hope. We'll get some bodyguards at Matt's side. So, going back into the technique a little bit, I guess, we have an interesting question here about inside heel hook defense. Noticing that you and Vinny Magalhães, you turn in opposite directions to escape. So, what's your thoughts on the heel hook defense for that then?
All right. I mean, I still turn away. I try to hit that Felipe Pena style back take. What
did they call it? The pretzel bolo or something like that, right?
The pretzel bolo, yeah. So Philippe turns in such a way that even if his heel gets exposed, he's got control of the hips and they can't put weight on the heel, and he turns it into the pretzel bolo style. So I mean, I would try that if I can hide my heel in a way that they lift their hips off the ground. Then I would turn back, but I would never turn back unless their hips are off the ground from that saddle position. Whereas Vinny Magalhães, I know sometimes he's so good at positioning his body, and I assume so flexible in the joints, that he gives them the heel hook grip and he sort of sits on top of them, and that would be really turning the wrong way in my opinion on a heel hook. But it's hard to disagree when he makes it work so well.
Yeah, I mean the results speak for themselves, right? And we've started seeing other people using it too. I mean, again, going back to Kynan, but you felt it against Kynan at Kasai that one time, but then Kasai came very close to doing it to Gordon at no-gi pants that one time too. Remember? So something to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean that would be what Kynan did to me was I went to the outside Ashi position, which is a very vulnerable position, but I sort of rushed through it because it was like he'd already scored 2. And in Kasai, the matches are so short. I was like, I got to go for it. And I didn't take him so serious in his leg lock defense that I just threw all technique away and went straight for the legs. But yeah, obviously his back takes are so good. Back takes are definitely the great counter to the leg lock game. I don't think you should give up the leg lock position to engage the back take. But you should pass as normal and use the back take to counter it.
Nice. What's next for Craig Jones? What you got coming up? We know we have another super fight pretty soon, right?
I got a match against Kevin Casey, and what's funny is I trained with Kevin Casey back in 2017, and he did beat me up a little bit. He knee-barred me 2 times.
Wow, really?
So a lot of people don't give him much credit for this match coming up.
Where did you train together, then?
We trained together at Dynamics in LA.
Got it.
So that was, I think we were filming the EBI Countdown show or something, but yeah, he is tough, and it'll be good. Like, obviously beat me up in training, so it'll be good to get a chance to take some revenge on him. That's Submission Underground March 29th, and I think it's actually 5-minute match and then EBI overtime. I hope it doesn't go to overtime.
That's a tough ask for Kevin Casey, I feel like.
Because I've never won an overtime round, whether it's wrestling, points, EBI style. You take me to overtime, I lose.
Really? Is that true? Wow, I've never realized. Yeah, because you did golden score at Third Coast and so on. Wow. Okay.
Everything, yeah. If it goes to the distance, I'm in trouble.
Just stall it out. Stall it out to
Stall it out.
You got 5 minutes to get it done, Craig. So, and then what else? You mentioned about how after the seminar here in Austin this weekend at 10th Planet, that you're going to fly back to New York, and then you're going to be based there through to ADCC. But in between now and then, do you have any specific goals, any things that you would like to achieve, or are you just looking forward to 2021?
The goal is definitely 2021. I'm actually thinking if it's possible, I jump in some wrestling tournaments and stuff. I really want to fix that part of my game. I haven't booked many super fights because of just the immigration issues and the constant traveling. So like I've been sort of inactive at the start of the year, but looking on ahead, back in camp, I look to be competing just as much as I did, say, prior to ADCC and stuff last year.
Great. So hopefully we should see you in action a little bit more.
Exactly, yeah. The vacation's over.
That's it. Back to work now.
Back to work.
Awesome. Wow, Craig, man, it's been awesome to have you in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in today. Good luck with the last seminar you have this weekend, and we'll be keeping an eye out for you, hopefully, back on the scene.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's it for this week's episode of A Fistful of Colors. We'll be back pretty soon. Don't forget, we've got major events coming up. We've got Fight to Win this weekend. Roberto Jimenez up against Lucas Hulk Barboza, and a couple of other standout matches. Following week, we've got a great Fight to Win in Dallas, Texas, with Lovato Jr. against Trattor, Mateus Gabriel Gianni Grippo. Third Coast Grappling is slated to go down that weekend as well. Gordon Ryan come back for a no time limit submission only match against Patrick Gaudio. And then Pans is coming up at the end of March as well. So lots of jiu-jitsu to come over the next couple of weeks, and you can watch it all here on FloGrappling.com. See you later.
Turned into a photo. That's it. Who do you think's going to win, Barbosa or Jimenez?
Oh, man, we should have brought that up on the show.
Is that a gi? That's a gi match?